Hello, I'm Dr. William Schlosser. You know me as an economist. You may also know me as an ecologist. But more than anything, you're going to know me as an educator. I'm Dr. Bill, and I welcome you to my classroom. Welcome to Chapter 2, where we will delve into the fundamental concepts of trade-offs, comparative advantage, and the market system. In this video, you'll learn how individuals and societies make choices when faced with limited resources, and how these choices involve trade-offs. We'll explore the principle of comparative advantage, which explains why specialization in trade can benefit all parties involved. Lastly, we'll examine how market systems allocate resources efficiently through the forces of supply and demand. By understanding these key economic principles, you'll gain insights into how economies operate and how you can apply these concepts to real-world situations. Let's get started on this journey into the heart of economics. All-electric cars initially struggled in the marketplace due to the high costs of batteries and the need for frequent recharging. However, Tesla has revolutionized the industry with innovative technology and strategic decisions. By 2024, Tesla offers a diverse lineup, including the Model S sedan, Model X SUV, Model 3 compact sedan, and the Model Y crossover, alongside their cutting-edge Cybertruck and Roadster. Tesla sells all its vehicles online and maintains a network of company-owned service centers for maintenance and support. Each month, Tesla's managers face critical production decisions, such as the quantity of each model to manufacture. Production of more units of the popular Model Y may mean fewer resources available for the high-end Model S or the futuristic Cybertruck. In this chapter, we'll explore these decision-making challenges using economic tools to understand how Tesla maximizes efficiency and meets market demand. We'll analyze trade-offs, comparative advantage, and the dynamics of the market system through the lens of Tesla's strategic choices. Scarcity and trade-offs are fundamental concepts in economics that affect households, firms, and governments alike. Scarcity refers to the basic economic problem that arises because resources are limited, while human wants are virtually unlimited. This reality forces us to make choices about how to best use the resources we have. For instance, consider Tesla, a company that manufactures electric vehicles. If Tesla decides to allocate more of its scarce resources, such as labor and machinery, to produce more Model X SUVs, it means those resources won't be available to produce Model S sedans. This decision involves a trade-off, sacrificing the production of one model to increase the production of another. Understanding how to navigate these trade-offs is essential to making informed economic decisions. Throughout this video, we will explore how the principle of scarcity and trade-offs apply in the various contexts and how they are integral to economic analysis. And by the end, you'll have a deeper understanding of these concepts and how they guide decision-making in the real world. We will discover in this video how they are united into powerful economic tools. In economics, we distinguish between positive and normative analysis. Positive analysis is objective and fact-based, describing what is, while normative analysis is subjective, focusing on what should be. This production possibilities frontier, or PPF, is a powerful tool in positive economics. It illustrates the maximum possible output combinations of two products that an economy can achieve, given its available resources and current technology. By representing real data, the PPF helps us understand trade-offs and opportunity costs. For example, if Tesla allocates more resources to produce Model 3 cars, it might have fewer resources left to produce Model Y cars. The PPF helps visualize these trade-offs, making it clear that producing more of one good means producing less of another. In economics, understanding the difference between normative and positive statements is crucial. Normative statements are value judgments, expressing opinions on what is desirable or undesirable. They often include words like should, ought, or need to. For example, saying we should give all students free tuition to attend college is a normative statement because it expresses a belief about what ought to be done. Positive statements focus on facts and objective data, explaining what will happen under certain conditions without making a judgment. For instance, stating waiving college tuition will cost the government $63 billion each year, while freeing students of the same level of student debt loans is a positive statement as it is based on the factual information and analysis. Economics strives to use and create positive statements, while they provide a factual basis for understanding and decision-making. In this section, we will explore the concept of a production possibilities frontier, PPF, through the example of Tesla. The PPF is a curve, or in this case, a straight line that shows the maximum attainable combinations of two products that can be produced with the available resources and current technology. For Tesla, producing more sedans means producing fewer SUVs and vice versa. All combinations of sedans and SUVs on the PPF line are efficient because they are all available resources. Points inside the frontier, like point F, are inefficient because they indicate that not all resources are being used to their fullest potential. Points outside the frontier, such as point G, are unattainable with Tesla's current resources. Understanding the PPF helps us visualize the trade-offs and opportunity costs that firms like Tesla face when deciding how to allocate their resources. Opportunity cost is a fundamental concept in economics that refers to the highest valued alternative that must be given up to engage in an activity. It's a way of quantifying what you sacrifice to gain something else. For example, on this graph, we see how Tesla must give up the production of 20 sedans to produce 20 more SUVs. This trade-off highlights the opportunity cost in their production process. In our daily lives, opportunity costs are everywhere. For instance, if you decide to write a term report for your economics class instead of attending a ball game, the opportunity cost of writing the paper is enjoyment and experience you would have had at the game. Well, understanding opportunity costs helps us make informed decisions by considering what we must forego to obtain something else. As we continue, we'll see how this concept of opportunity cost plays out in various economic scenarios and decisions, both at the firm level and in our personal choices. A production possibilities frontier that is bowed outward illustrates increasing marginal opportunity costs. This occurs because some workers, machines, and other resources are better suited to one use than to another. The more resources already devoted to any activity, the smaller the payoff of devoting additional resources to that activity. For example, moving from a point B to point C on our PPF curve leads to a decrease in the production of 150 tanks to gain an additional 200 automobiles. The opportunity cost of producing 200 additional automobiles is the forfeiture of 150 tanks. Conversely, producing 50 additional tanks, from 350 to 400, results in an opportunity cost of 200 automobiles. This demonstrates that the payoff from additional resources contributed to tank production diminishes as more resources are devoted to it. Economic growth is the ability of the economy to increase the production of its goods and services. Economic growth can occur if more resources become available or if technological advances make resources more productive. Growth may lead to greater increases in production for one good than another. This outward shift in the PPF creates new production possibilities for the business, the sector, and the country. In our example, as more resources become available as technology improves, the economy can move from point A to producing 200 tanks and 400 automobiles to point B, producing 300 tanks and 450 automobiles. Economic growth is the ability of the economy to increase the production of a good or service. Economic growth can occur if more resources become available, or if a technological advance makes more resources more productive. Growth may lead to greater increases in production for one good than another. This outward shift in the PPF creates new production possibilities for the business, the sector, and the country. In economics, the concept of trade-offs extends beyond business operations and can be applied to everyday decisions, such as studying for exams. Imagine you have a limited amount of time to prepare for 2 exams, economics and accounting. The production possibilities curve, or PPF, for your exam grades illustrates the trade-offs between the time spent studying for each subject. If we consider the PPF for studying, it would be bowed outward curve. This is because the value of an additional hour spent studying for either exam decreases as you allocate more hours. For instance, the first hour you spent studying for economics is much more valuable and likely yields a higher increase in your grade than your last hour spent. Similarly, the first hour of studying for an accounting exam has a higher impact than subsequent hours. This bowed outward shape of the PPF reflects the increase in your opportunity costs. As you dedicate more time to studying economics, the opportunity cost, in terms of potential accounting grade improvement, becomes higher. Understanding this trade-off helps in making more informed and efficient study plans, balancing your time to maximize overall performance. Welcome to our exploration of how Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories, SEL, applies key economic concepts to its operations. SEL, headquartered here in Pullman, Washington, is a global leader in designing and manufacturing products for electric power systems, such as digital protective relays and control systems. One of the critical concepts we can observe in SEL's operations is the production possibilities frontier. The PPF illustrates the trade-offs between 2 products that a company can produce, given its available resources and technology. For SEL, this means making a strategic decision on how to allocate resources between manufacturing different types of products, such as digital protective relays and control systems. In this video, you can see SEL's state-of-the-art manufacturing processes. The company has invested heavily in automation technology to streamline the creation of their boards. This automation not only facilitates repairs, but also significantly reduces the time spent in manufacturing. By optimizing their production possibilities, SEL can ensure that they meet the global demand efficiently. SEL faces daily decisions about resource allocation. For example, if the company decides to allocate more resources to produce a higher quantity of digital protective relays, they may have to reduce the resources available for producing control systems. This trade-off is represented on their PPF. Points on the curve represent efficient production combinations, where all resources are fully utilized. However, SEL's investment in automation technologies and process optimizations has effectively shifted their PPF outward. This means that they can produce more of both products than before, representing economic growth. This shift is due to technological advancements that make their resources more productive, allowing them to meet consumer orders faster and more efficiently, from the initial order to delivery. By focusing operational attention on where time is spent, SEL can expedite order fulfillment for their worldwide clients. This strategic allocation of resources and the continual push for efficiency and innovation exemplifies how real-world businesses apply economic principles to achieve growth and operational excellence. In summary, SEL's approach to manufacturing and resource allocation demonstrates the practical application of the PPF concept. Their ability to produce more, faster, and with greater efficiency is a testament to the power of technological advancement and strategic economic planning. Let's begin by considering a straightforward example to understand the production possibilities frontier. Imagine you and your neighbor each have a limited amount of time to pick either cherries or apples. If you spend all your time picking cherries, you can harvest 20 pounds of cherries. Alternatively, if you dedicate all your time to picking apples, you can gather 20 pounds of apples. This scenario represents your production possibilities. Now, let's look at your neighbor. If she devotes all her time to picking cherries, she can pick an impressive 60 pounds of cherries. Conversely, while she spends all her time picking apples, she can collect 30 pounds of apples. These numbers illustrate the trade-offs each of you faces when choosing how to allocate your time between picking cherries and apples. The production possibilities frontier for each person shows the maximum possible output combinations of the two goods that can be achieved without trade. By understanding these PPFs, we begin to explore how specialization and trade can enhance production and consumption for both you and your neighbor. In our example, let's take a closer look at your neighbor's production possibilities. If your neighbor dedicates all her time to picking cherries, she can harvest 60 pounds of cherries in a day. On the other hand, if she spends all her time picking apples, she can gather 30 pounds of apples. This illustrates her production possibilities frontier, which shows the maximum combination of two goods she can produce with her available resources. By analyzing this PPF, we can better understand how the trade-offs and opportunity costs shape her production decisions. As we delve deeper into this example, we will see how these concepts apply not just to individual choices, but to broader economic scenarios as well. Trade is a fundamental economic concept where individuals or entities exchange goods and services to mutual advantage. But how does this work in practice? Imagine you and your neighbor decide to specialize in trade. Trade is the act of buying and selling, and it can create significant benefits even when one party is more efficient at producing both goods. Consider that your neighbor is better at picking both apples and cherries. At first glance, it might seem like there's no advantage for her to trade with you. However, both of you can benefit by specializing in the production of the good for which you have a comparative advantage, even if one party is more productive in absolute terms for both goods. And by focusing on what you are relatively better at, you both can increase your overall production and consumption. Let's explore how this concept of specialization and trade leads to mutual gains, enhancing the economic welfare of both parties. When individuals do not engage in trade, their consumption possibilities are limited to what they can produce on their own. In this example, you are capable of picking and consuming 8 pounds of apples and 12 pounds of cherries per day. This is shown as point A on your production possibilities frontier. Similarly, your neighbor can pick and consume 9 pounds of apples and 42 pounds of cherries per day, represented by point C on her PPF. These points illustrate the limitations of self-sufficiency and highlights the potential gains from specialization and trade. You pick 20 pounds of apples, she picks 60 pounds of cherries, and you trade products. Your consumption moves to 10 pounds of apples and 15 pounds of cherries, while your neighbor consumes 10 pounds of apples and 45 pounds of cherries. Because of trade, you both consume more of each product than when you did not trade. This demonstrates the gains from specialization and trade, highlighting how both parties can improve their consumption through cooperation and exchange. This simplistic scenario is repeated on regional, national, and international trading exchanges. Each part of the economy can benefit from trade. How could both of you benefit from trade when your neighbor is so much better than you? Economists say your neighbor had an absolute advantage in both cherry and apple picking, but you had a competitive advantage in picking apples. Now, absolute advantage is the ability of an individual, a firm, or a country to produce more of a good or service than competitors using the same amount of resources. This means that your neighbor was simply more efficient at picking both cherries and apples. However, a comparative advantage is different. It refers to the ability of an individual, a firm, or country to produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost than competitors. Even though your neighbor was better at picking both fruits, what they gave up by not picking the other fruit was higher compared to you. By specializing in what each of you are relatively better at, you can both benefit. This way, you can trade and enjoy both of more products than if you try to do everything yourself. The principle of comparative advantage shows that the trade is mutually beneficial, allowing for more efficient production and consumption for everyone involved. This is where we apply opportunity cost principles to understanding the concept of comparative advantage. Your ability to pick 20 pounds of apples or cherries means that your opportunity cost of picking 1 more pound of apples is 1 pound of cherries. Your neighbor's opportunity cost of picking 1 pound of apples is 2 pounds of cherries. Therefore, your neighbor has a larger opportunity cost of picking apples than you do. Conversely, your neighbor's opportunity cost of picking cherries is 0.5 pounds of apples, while your opportunity cost of picking cherries is 1 pound of apples. This means your neighbor has a comparative advantage in picking cherries. Comparative advantage is the ability of an individual, firm, or country to produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost than competitors. By specializing in the production of goods for which they have a comparative advantage, and trading for other goods, both you and your neighbor can benefit. This is the basis for trade. By trading based on comparative advantage, overall production and consumption are increased. Individuals, firms, and countries are better off if they specialize in the production of the goods and services for which they have a comparative advantage, and to obtain the other goods and services they need by trading. Let's bring the concept of comparative advantage closer to home with an everyday example of housework. In a household, chores need to be divided efficiently. Imagine 2 people, Jack and Jill, living together. Jack is faster than Jill in both cooking and doing laundry. However, he is much faster at cooking than doing laundry. On the other hand, while Jack is only a little bit faster than Jill at doing laundry, Jill is relatively proficient at it. Comparative advantage provides a useful insight here. Although Jack is better at both tasks, his comparative advantage lies in cooking because he sacrifices less time doing laundry when he focuses on cooking. Jill, conversely, should specialize in laundry, where her opportunity cost is lower compared to cooking. By specializing based on their comparative advantages, Jack and Jill can maximize their household efficiently, ensuring that meals are tastier and laundry is done more consistently. This is a simple yet powerful application of comparative advantage in everyday life. In the United States and most other countries, trade is carried out in markets. A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a good or service and the institution or arrangement by which they come together to trade. A product market is a market for goods such as computers or services such as medical information. A factor market is a market for the factors of production, such as labor, capital, and natural resources, and entrepreneurial ability. Factors of production are the inputs used to make goods and services. Each component interacts with each other component to make the system interdependent in their interactions. A circular flow diagram is a model that illustrates how participants in the market are linked. The diagram demonstrates the interaction between firms and households in both product and factor markets. People enter the factor market to supply labor that firms hire, while firms pay for their work through the factor market that people in households accept. Firms make products and provide services through the product market that households purchase. It is the circular flow diagram, taken at small levels like cities or larger levels like states and countries, making businesses and households mutually dependent. In this simplified model, we have not included some key players such as government, property rights, financial systems, or international trade. These elements will be explored in later chapters as they play critical roles in a more comprehensive economic system. A key to understanding Adam Smith's argument is the assumption that individuals usually act in a rational and self-interested way. This assumption underlies nearly all economic analyses. Keep this one in mind. People usually act in a rational and self-interested way. It may not be immediately obvious that markets will do better than centrally planned systems in satisfying human desires. However, markets with flexible prices allow the collective actions of households and firms to signal the relative worth of goods and services. In this way, the invisible hand always allows individual responses to collectively end up satisfying the wants of consumers. A key to understanding Adam Smith's argument is the assumption that individuals usually act in a rational and self-interested way. This assumption underlies nearly all economic analyses. Keep this one in mind. People usually act in a rational and self-interested way. It may not be immediately obvious that markets will do better than centrally planned systems in satisfying human desires. However, markets with flexible prices allow the collective actions of households and firms to signal the relative worth of goods and services. In this way, the invisible hand always allows individual responses to collectively end up satisfying the wants of consumers. To understand the beauty of the market system in action, let's consider the example of a modern smartphone. Companies like Apple, Samsung, and Google design their smartphones, but the production involves a vast network of suppliers and manufacturers. These companies source components like processors, memory chips, cameras, and displays from various firms worldwide. Each supplier is guided by self-interest, aiming to maximize profit. Yet collectively, they contribute to the production of smartphones. This intricate coordination happens without any central authority directing it, showcasing the power of the market mechanism. The firms involved in the supply chain might not even know that their products will end up in a smartphone, but through the invisible hand of the market, their individual actions lead to the creation of a product that satisfies consumer needs. Entrepreneurs play a critical role in a market economy. An entrepreneur is someone who operates a business, bringing together the factors of production, labor, capital, and natural resources, to create goods and services. They are innovative thinkers who identify new opportunities and bring products to market that consumers may not even realize they need. As Henry Ford famously said, if I had asked my consumers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. This quote highlights the visionary nature of successful entrepreneurs who push beyond existing demands to create transformative products. Entrepreneurs often face significant personal risk and sacrifices, but their contributions are vital to economic growth and innovation. Entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of economic growth, driving innovation and responding to consumer demand. They often risk their own funds to start businesses, organizing factors of production to produce goods and services and meet the market needs. By introducing new products and improving existing ones, entrepreneurs significantly contribute to the economic dynamicism and development. The role of entrepreneurs extends beyond mere profit-making. They create jobs, foster competition, and bring about technological advancements that can lead to improved productivity and efficiency. By responding to consumer preferences and anticipating future demands, entrepreneurs help shape the market landscape. A market economy requires more than just minimal government interventions to function well. It needs a robust legal framework. Governments must protect private property rights to ensure that individuals and firms have the incentive to work hard and innovate. This includes not only physical property, but also intellectual property, for which patents grant exclusive rights to produce and sell new products. Additionally, enforcing contracts and property rights through an independent court system is critical for market transactions and overall economic stability. Books, film, and software receive copyright protection. Under U.S. law, the creator of a book, film, or piece of music has the exclusive right to use the creation during the creator's lifetime. The creator's heirs retain this right for 50 years after the death of the creator. The production possibilities frontier be bowed inward? Well, think about what that would mean. A reduction in the production of tanks would always mean an increase in automobiles greater than the decrease in tanks. You would settle on one side of the spectrum and not even consider producing any of the other products. PPF is a positive economic analysis tool. Beware of normative arguments applied to PPF curves, because those two do not go well together. Comparative advantage is the mecca of determining the basis for trade. Master this concept and you will understand how trade is enabled. Free markets are empowered by active government participation to support the rule of law, property rights, currency valuation, and national defense. Free markets do not happen by chance. They are the result of structured organization of governments with businesses and households to support a way of life.